Hi guys, it's April and I garden down in southeast Nebraska, zone 6A, and I believe we're about 3 weeks out from our last frost date, but part of me is wondering if we haven't already passed our last frost date just because of how the weather is looking in the next 10 days. But I am going to continue to follow my tried and true timeline because, that snow can show up whenever the heck it wants to. So my project today is to separate and thin all of these tomato plants. They've gotten a little more gangly looking than I normally like. I have been trying something a little different this year with some of my grow lights and how I rotate everything, and I don't think it worked in my favor, at least with the tomato plants. So that is something that I am going to note for next year, that I need to get these guys under the really strong lights very quickly, because otherwise they get all tangled and I'm not enjoying how some of these look. But with that being said, I do have about 18 tomato plants that I want to separate, and then all the rest of them I'm going to thin. I want to have 2 trays of tomatoes. As I'm doing all that, I'm going to try and bury these guys a little deeper than they already are. Hopefully that'll give them some stability and I can counteract some of that gangliness that is happening to my plants. I think another thing that kind of happened this year is I wasn't as hands-on with these guys as I have been in the past, so they didn't get as sturdy as they have been, but it's a learning year. So what I have kind of tentatively planned on which ones I want duplicates of and which ones I just want to thin is a lot of my dwarfs I want duplicates of, because there's something about dwarf plants that is just a little easier to manage. So that is what we're going to do. We've actually got 3 here. So this is the eye candy, which the more it grows, the more I believe is a dwarf. So I might have that miscategorized. And honestly, it's the dwarf plants that are looking the best right now out of all of the tomato plants. Actually got 4 in here, but what I might do is, because these ones are growing so close together, they're the ones that are gonna have to go. I've gotten to the point in my gardening journey where I am not as gentle with these plants as I was at the beginning, because they have proven they can handle a lot. Okay, sometimes technology is not my friend. We'll see if I can manage to get the rest of this recorded. Otherwise, I will do it and then show you guys when I'm done. But I'm basically just going to be doing this for the next hour, hour and a half, deciding which plant or plants look good that I want to keep, and then potting those up or topping those off. I am taking off the little starter leaves, which are the cotyledons, because at this point a lot of times they want to fall off anyways. Oh, we got one that's a little ingrown right here. Oh no, it curlicued on itself. That's kind of cool. That's the Werkawai. He's looking a little crispy. Or the soil feels fine. This is also part of that Starfighter line that I always struggle with, which is part of the reason I want 2 of these. I'm gonna leave the cotyledons on this one because it still looks so young. Only one of my Dipperstilite actually sprouted this year. The other set did not. I think it was Russ's that actually sprouted, and none of the other ones did. And we'll see if this guy bounces back. These ones are so close together. Now, this guy was reaching for the light, unfortunately. That was what, the wild Fred? Yes. This is another really spindly one. I'm gonna see if we can save it though, because I could plant this one a little deeper so I don't need as much soil to begin with. This one I always enjoy having in the garden because of the variegation. This is Gandalf. Hold on. See if I can get this more in the center. Can't forget to label this. It's the Brandy Fred. Now, I probably should have done a lot of this when the tomatoes were about this size. But time has been a tricky thing. So it's better late than never. Oh, shoot. Don't think I can separate those two, even though they're the best looking ones of the group, because they're just so embedded in each other. I feel like any decision I'm about to make is the wrong decision. I shall live with the consequences of my actions. Okay, so the other type of tomatoes that I want multiples of are the Romas, especially the ones with the purple shoulders. Sadly, none of my California tulips came up, so it's going to be mostly the Midnights and the dark plums. Okay. I'm leaning a little bit, but it'll straighten out. This was the Midnight Roma. Okay. This soil is pretty dry. Okay, the tie-dye, for a tie-dye. Yeah, I mean, they're like all in the same trays and they all get the same amount of water. But it's interesting which ones end up bone dry and which ones are overly saturated. That one's just gonna have a little lean for a little while. So these last couple that I want to separate out are my fuzzy varieties. So I have both the Fuzzy Wuzzy Dwarf and the Logathan Woolly. This one just came up. I'm gonna top it up with a little bit of soil, but that's all I'm gonna do. So this one took a whole 14 days to germinate. I am now on the ones where I am just gonna be thinning. I might improvise a little bit. So we can get them a little deeper down. If they need it. It's another one that was a late sprout. Well, I finally broke my shovel. Ugh. Oh. Broke a couple of these off. Didn't mean to. It's just getting really messy in there. Everything's all tangled up at this point. It's looking a little rough. Hopefully we don't lose this one. This one's also looking a little rough. Like I said, I keep breaking limbs as I'm trying to get these guys out of the tray. Okay, this is the last tomato. But before I'm done, I do want to separate out my eggplants. Sadly, only the fairy tale eggplants germinated. Didn't get any of the Casper. But maybe I will find some starts, either at the garden center or at the farmer's market. We'll see. If not, we try again. That ended up taking me nearly 2 hours to figure out all of these tomato plants and the one set of eggplants. I am going to take you around to show you what is still left on my shelf. I did plant out all of the cool season plants earlier this week. I do have a video up on that if you want to see some of that. It's not really me talking because it was very windy both of the days I planted all of that out. So it's just me planting. I do now have several sets of lights that are open. I'm thinking next week I am going to up pot a lot of those annual flowers that I started. So all of those zinnias and the calendulas and the nasturtiums and things like that. I also think I'm going to attempt to plant out some of my more biannual perennial style flowers next week as well. We have a couple more days of rain, but then it gets nice and toasty outside. So I think they'll be ready to go out then, which means I'll have a whole nother tray planted out, which I'm really excited for. And I may even get things like the dill and the cilantro out as well. I don't know, playing it by ear. But let me take you around to see what is still left under these lights. So right here we have mostly the coleus and a couple of sunflowers. I believe there's also some of the Livingston daisies back there and maybe some echinacea, but they're kind of buried at this point. And then you saw these two shelves. They're just the tomato plants. Over here we have the tray of warm season herbs, so all the basil and the thyme and the stevia. Here's where the eggplants that I just did are living. Otherwise, we have the pepper plants that we did last week, and I might have to actually move them upstairs to the taller grow light soon because they are starting to hit the top. So we only have a couple things left on the heat mat under the dome. We've got a couple of sunflowers that I don't know if they're actually going to do anything, and then that Casper eggplant that I was telling you about. I'm still hopeful, but it's looking more and more unlikely that that is going to happen. And then under here, we have all of the zinnias, the nasturtiums, and some of the sunflowers, and the rabbit tails hanging out. Did I call those calendulas or nasturtiums? Those are calendulas. The nasturtiums are on another shelf, and I can show you those. Over here, we have the nasturtiums, and then we've got some of the Dusty Miller sprouting, and the poppies that are sprouting as well. I'll probably have to start thinking about pricking those out and up-potting them at some point. But right now, they're just doing their thing. And then finally, we have these 3 trays that are up here. This is mostly just straw flowers, a lot of straw flowers. Actually, we have some of the paper daisies as well. And then back here is the tray that I think we'll be able to plant out next week. It's got the hollyhocks, the sweet williams, the agastache, and then the cilantro and the dill and things like that. So yeah, that is everything that is still inside the house. I don't know if I'm going to do a spring tour of what's going on in the garden soon or not. We'll see how all of that starts to go. But if you want to continue to follow me on this 2026 growing season, feel free to subscribe down below, hit the bell, do all the things to get all of the notifications. I also have an Instagram and Threads account if you want to follow me over there as well. Otherwise, I hope I will see you guys again in another video, and I heart your beautiful faces. Bye.